Hello, EDU 145. This presentation is meant to give you a quick overview of the child assessment project that you'll work on throughout the semester in this 8-week class. There is more detailed information that will be broken down as each component of this project is due, but this quick overview will give you an idea of how to pace yourself and plan for your work throughout the semester. It's often easier to be successful, meet the learning outcomes of an assignment, and focus on the important aspects of the assignment when you understand the purpose behind it. The purpose for this assignment is that every early childhood teacher must understand that child observation and other forms of assessment are central to the practice of all early childhood professionals. You as a classroom teacher one day will observe children that you care for. You will notice developmental milestones they meet. You'll share that information with families. You may also notice delays in meeting those milestones and will help connect families and children with resources to be sure that they don't fall behind and meet those developmental indicators to show typical development. This assignment provides the opportunity for you to practice authentic observation of children and developmentally appropriate assessment and to better understand child development of preschool-aged children. Throughout the semester in this class, you are going to observe and document the development of a specific preschool-aged child in a child care setting. You are going to also identify a child that is between the ages of 3 and 5 years old. The child should not have started kindergarten yet. We will be using the North Carolina Foundations for Early Learning and Development to evaluate the notes we take and to determine if a child is on track for typical development. So it is important that the child is between the ages of 3 and 5. The child's family must sign a consent form and participate in a family interview with you, the EDU 145 student. This interview can be done over the phone, but it must include a conversation between you and the family or a parent of the child. What we're going to look at for the rest of this presentation is how this project is broken into 3 different parts. The first part is having forms signed, conducting a family interview, and reflecting on that interview. So, of course, the first part in getting started is identifying a child between the ages of 3 and 5 years old that has not started kindergarten yet that you can observe throughout the semester for this project. You can choose a child. If you currently work in childcare, you can choose a child in that childcare facility. If you have connections to someone that works at a childcare facility, you can ask them for help with this. If you're not sure where to go and you just don't have any connections to a child in this age group that you can find permission for, you need to contact Amy Rose. She is the director at the Johnston Community College Child Development Center, and all of her contact information is listed in the class. It's also on the JCC website. You have to move pretty quickly with this because part 1 is due at the end of week 2 of this class. So you need to immediately contact a family, have them sign the permission forms that are available in Blackboard. There are interview questions provided as well. You need to interview the family using the provided questions. And in addition to those questions, you need to come up with 5 other questions to ask them that will help them give you more depth to the answers that they're giving, or that just build on what you feel like you need to know from this family to get an idea of how the family is structured and how the family structure might impact the child's development. Because the last part of part 1 is that you will write a reflection about what you learned about the family in the family interview. So you'll get more information about that in that module. After you have permission forms signed and you conduct the family interview, you're moving on to part 2, which is the developmental assessment. This is the main meat of the project. In part 2, you're still working with the same child whose family gave you permission to observe them, and you're scheduling time to observe them at least 5 times in their child development center. You need to observe the developmental domains that are outlined in the project, which are physical, cognitive, language, and social emotional domains. You're going to also use the Centers for Disease Control Developmental Milestones checklist for that first observation to give you an overview, a broad overview of where that child is developmentally. And then for the rest of the observations, you'll be taking anecdotal records and running records. You will also collect pictures, videos, and work samples, we call those artifacts, while observing the child so that you would be able to write a developmental assessment reflection. Okay, so part 2 is all about gathering information, learning more about the child, and really engaging in authentic assessment. Part 2 is due during week 5 of class. So you will be scheduling time to observe the child during week 3, week 4, and week 5 of the class, and you need to observe them at least 5 times in those 3 weeks. The last part of the project, part 3, is the summary report and the goals that you're going to write. In part 3, you're really going to take a look at all the information you've gathered from the family interview, from the observations you've done in the classroom. You're going to look at the notes you've taken. You're going to look at the developmental checklist that you completed, and you're going to look at the reflections that you've done in comparison to Foundations for Early Learning and Development. And you're going to create in part 3 a summary report that gives a summary of that child's overall development, addressing all of those developmental domains and where you see them having strengths and then areas that could use improvement. From that, you are going to create 4 developmental goals. Those goals will come directly from North Carolina Foundations for Learning and Development, and you are going to plan an activity that would enhance that child's development for each of those 4 goals. So part 3 is a developmental summary report based on all the information you've gathered. It is 4 goals based on that information as well, and the goals will cover all 4 developmental domains, and then an activity to support growth and development in each of those goals. And that is the final part of this project, and it is due during week 7 of class. Finally, it's important for you to know that this is a big part of your grade in this class. You will be provided with a rubric that gives you information about what I'll be looking for when I grade each component or each part of the assignment. And all of those parts will be averaged together, and together they will represent 30% of your final grade in this class. So this is important. It's going to give you that hands-on experience of observing and looking for the child's developmental milestones while they're in a play-based atmosphere, and how you can apply that to planning and making goals for the child. As I said before, this is just a quick overview of this project, but each week you will be given more information, and each part you'll have more detail about what is included in each part. This is just an overview for you to get an idea of how the project is going to go throughout the semester so that you can plan your time appropriately, and also to help you see how important it is that you get started early and get the ball rolling with a child and a family within that first week of class.